by regulation.
Is that the problem, though? It's not necessarily Bitcoin, the underlying asset, but more the froth and the potential for fraudsters to use it that has been
this is a
concern?
field, Becky, that's been rife with fraud and manipulation. And look at all the bankruptcies. And you've had on this set people talking about those various bankruptcies. And it's not just one entity. It's entity after entity after entity. And then investors are just lining up in the bankruptcy court.
What do you make of, this goes to the underlying piece of this. You've heard Jamie Dimon say that he would close it down, that basically Bitcoin is, you've seen the comments, right? It's not just that he closed it down, that he would say it's used by drug dealers and used by folks who are doing all sorts of illicit and terrible things. There's very few things that trade today that people talk about like that. Now, there are obviously frauds and things that happen, but maybe not like this.
Like the dollar is like 100 times more.
Well, I know that's your perspective, but I'm just I'm curious how you think about that.
That's true, though. This is how much has been money laundered with Bitcoin. This is how much. This is Bitcoin. This is dollar.
Yes, Joe. But look, here's the Jamie Dimon quote. The only true use case for it is for criminals, drug traffickers, money laundering, and tax avoidance. I know, but we have a guest.
That's his opinion.
We have a guest, Joe. What is your opinion? And what is your opinion that we have something trading on the exchange for the public that has this type of use case, at least as described by the president of one of the largest financial institutions in the country?
It's the leading market share in ransomware, and that's publicly known.
Right.
It's the token of choice for ransomware. Joe, if I can say, the U.S. dollar, the euro, the yen, you have the whole society using it as a medium of exchange. We buy our cups of coffee, as I see here. Right. We get paid in dollars or yen or euro. And you have a whole central bank and support for one currency generally per economic region. That we don't have here. So there is a very real economic difference.
Which is part of the attraction, since it's decentralized, and you can't have a profligate central bank.
It's not that decentralized, Joe.
Well, I know you're saying because of the ETFs, but really it is.
No, it's not that decentralized
and everything.
Because look how finance tends towards centralization since antiquity. Right. So what do we have? We have a handful of 3 to 6 core so-called crypto exchanges.
I understand, but the asset itself, the way that the
distributed ledger,
right? That's how the ledger. And
now, how many times do you have people on this show that say, "I want to invest in something because how the books and records are kept"? I mean, Joe, really? It's just an accounting ledger. It's a ledger that everyone has, and can't be double counted. It's almost immutable. That's why people think it has inherent value. So you trust it more than an Oracle database, or you trust it more than I trust it more than a lot of the Bitcoin bulls say they trust it a lot more than the central bank that enables the fiscal authorities to spend money to the tune of $33 trillion. That's everybody's investment choice, but.
Welcome to the Crypto Teacher. And I come back with that video just to make you think.
Don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel.
And make sure you're joining the Patreons. If you're not a part of the Patreons, make sure you're hitting the Cash App. And we have Gary Gensler sticking to the story. Why, guys? Because they're going to use crypto for this banking collapse. I done told you this 100 times. He hasn't changed. Even when he's questioning about all the information he has on blockchain and crypto, because we know he taught at MIT, he is still sticking with the lie. He has to. Remember, Gary Gensler and Janet Yellen are the NWO chess pieces in order to land us in the 4th Industrial Revolution. And then he says, hey, Bitcoin is not so decentralized. And is brought up when it comes to illegal activity, dollars are used way more than Bitcoin. And of course, Bitcoin is on a blockchain. Everything is recorded. And then he also had the nerve to say, what's the big deal about a recorded ledger? And even says it's automated. That's the big deal. This whole interview was unbelievable. He's at MIT speaking about the power of blockchain, a recorded ledger, in an economy of data. And that's the reason why SWIFT And chain link partnership is so important because they'll be able to know you better than you know yourself. Swift is going to get all this information from these blockchains. And Gary Gensler knows this. He knows all about the fourth industrial revolution. And Gary Gensler cleared up the same thing Jim Cramer said. These Bitcoin ETFs are not ETFs. They're ETPs. Now we know teamwork makes the dream work. 15-minute cities, guys, is right around the corner. Building a neighborhood with no cars. And has the nerve to say we've been building housing all wrong. And guys, we know the programming is about to begin. Like Klaus stated, private car ownership is going to be a thing of the past or just for the rich. And remember, the crypto teacher told you. And we had the Treasury in front of Congress speaking about digital IDs, biometrics, and then playing the Hegelian dialectic. This time it's on the positive. Crypto is not used for illicit activities the way we're being told. Remember I told you, they're going to take this negative and turn it into a positive when they're ready to flip the switch. And we know that free money being airdropped is coming around the corner. And then, guys, we hear the drums are beating. A serious national security threat. Yes, I know it sounds like a movie, but remember, your life is an illusion and TV is your reality. Anytime, guys, we're broke, and we know we are dead broke. That's the reason why they want to take us in a virtual world. The crisis has to begin in order for the fourth industrial revolution to roll in. And we know it's the same boogeyman. Like I told you earlier, get in the lab. Yes, have a little fun this year, but get in the lab. It's so important. Educate your friends and family and be a watchman on the wall. Because the master magicians are about to turn up the distractions. And remember, the crypto teacher told you. Because he knows when it comes to the NWO, it's all planned out. You have a wonderful day.
And I think we're all curious about how you think this is going. Not just in terms of what's happened to the price, but in terms of what you think is happening inside this market and whether you think it's, quote unquote, working.
Well, look, we focus on investor protection and, of course, the issuers raising money. So this product, we've had similar products in gold and silver, ETFs, you call them. They're technically exchange-traded products. We approved a group of about 11 at one time. This was not the first way you could buy or express a risk in Bitcoin. But as we like to say, we're merit neutral. This was not in any way like an approval of Bitcoin. That existed. It's just how to trade it in these exchange-traded products.
We've had both a futures-based Ether and Bitcoin ETF, before, and I'm curious, sort of, how you think that this is going to impact the price of these things, given that, by the way, interestingly, was it Pomp who was just on? Yeah. Anthony Pompliano was just on earlier this week and was saying that so few Bitcoins are actually moving, and what we should think of that.
In merit neutral, I think it's a little less than neutral, Mr. Chairman. It almost was, we called it grudgingly when you finally got it. From the court case sort of forced in. Is it really just neutral, or wasn't there a little bit of a, we're not sure about this thing, and buyer beware?
Let me say it this way. Yeah. We're merit neutral if somebody's complying with the laws. Okay. So if they're giving full, fair, and truthful disclosures to the American public, who gets to decide on their investments.
But you're so smart. You're at MIT, and people listen to your what you think about Bitcoin, and it is troublesome to me if I look at it and I see all the merits of it, and someone that taught about it and understands it seems to have an opinion that maybe it's, I don't know, pet rockish or something.
I get your words about pet rocks and so forth, but I think we also have an investor education responsibility at the SEC, particularly about those investments that are non-compliant with either the securities laws or commodities laws and so forth. So here we have an asset class, all of these 15,000, 20,000 crypto tokens many of which, without prejudging anyone, many of which are actually something called investment contracts or securities, and the platforms upon which you trade, the intermediaries. Right. They're not like in this building, NASDAQ, that has protections and against fraud and manipulation and the like.
Just seen people lose their shirt on with NASDAQ stocks.
You can lose because there's risk. Right. There's risk in investments. But what we try to do as a society is take some of the fraud and manipulation risk out of the market.
And then I think about how many things can be used in a deleterious way. Of course, but that doesn't. It has nothing to do with the underlying thing that you're using itself. I mean, I can go run a car into a parade and run over 40 people. That doesn't mean we shouldn't have cars. Does it?
No. You should have cars.
I wasn't going to use guns because, God, I don't want to trigger, so to speak, anyone on the set. But
when the use case of a particular thing that you're buying and selling as an investment is just speculative investment.
How many of the 90% of the people that own Bitcoin are using it for ransomware? There must be another use case that makes it so attractive to so many people.
Speculative investing.
Right. Speculative investing. That's what. Okay. Let me ask a separate question, which is just to pivot this, because I think the next sort of order event question is what happens to Ethereum. For those in the crypto world, they all want to know how you're thinking about that. And really, if Ethereum is a security, how does that analysis differ from how you would think about Bitcoin?
What we did in January was cabin to one set of filings. We have other filings. You're absolutely right. In front of us, but I'm not going to prejudge it for you or the audience. That's something that a 5-member commission discusses and reviews.
More Americans work from home. They are changing the way they live, seeking more social, walkable communities. But are they willing to give up their cars entirely? One real estate developer is making a bet that in Tempe, Arizona, they will. That's where we find CNBC's senior real estate correspondent, Diana Olick. Hi, Diana. Hey, Contessa. Yeah, this new $170 million rental community has all the amenities, the fitness center, the dog park, the outdoor kitchens. Well, what it does not have is cars. Cul-de-sac is the first community in the U.S. designed specifically for car-free living. Co-founder Ryan Johnson said it's what Americans want.
In the U.S., we've been building the wrong kind of housing for 100 years. We've built sprawl, and it's created car dependency, and it's made us lonelier, less healthy, and less happy. And what people want is to live in walkable neighborhoods.
Generative AI models. Deepfakes, replicating individuals' voices or images are becoming more convincing. Many of us took notice, but we're not entirely shocked by the recent report of a $25 million fraudulent transfer that took place by an employee who had attended a Zoom meeting entirely populated by deepfake impersonations of his boss and coworkers. And so now in your report, FinCEN noted that public-private partnerships and applications of emerging technology present many opportunities to combat identity fraud. I've spoken to you about this in the past, particularly about digital ID, which is one potential solution that is listed in your report. So given these developments, could you sort of quickly summarize what the benefits might be of a robust digital ID system that would allow citizens who wish to use it with a tool to prove they are who they say they are in online transactions, and a tool that would be securely backed up with biometric information like passports or Real ID? And how valuable could that be in the fight against financial?
On October 10th, 2023, the Wall Street Journal reported that between August 2021 and June 2023, Hamas received $41 million in digital assets, and the Palestinian Islamic Jihad received $93 million in digital assets. Undersecretary Nelson, is this Treasury's assessment too? Because the world's leading blockchain analytics firms have called this a misinterpretation of the data, and that the amount that any terrorist might have received is significantly smaller.
Thank you for that question, Congressman. And yes, I think that assessment largely tracks with our own. The numbers noted in the Wall Street Journal piece talked about wallets, but not necessarily the sort of disaggregated among the wallet's customers.
It's assets that people had in their wallets, as opposed to what was specifically going to the Palestinian Islamic Jihad
That's what we
and
think
Hamas.
is most likely, and we also assess that terrorists still prefer, frankly, to use traditional products and services. But this is something that we are obviously monitoring very closely.
And I appreciate that. How much do you think actually got into the hands of Hamas or the Palestinian Islamic Jihad?
I think we can have a classified conversation about precise numbers or expectations. I think we have done in both Hamas and the PIDGE a good job at identifying the virtual asset service providers that they've relied on and the financial facilitators that they have historically relied on that would tend to use virtual assets. So we don't expect the number is very high, particularly.
I'd love to take you up on that because I sent a letter with several other members right after this erroneous Wall Street Journal report asking for specific information. So we'll take you up on that offer. Undersecretary Nelson, you said that digital assets are not the preferred means of terrorist financing, but I want to be clear. Digital assets were not even a popular tool for Hamas or the Palestinian Islamic Jihad, correct?
I think that's correct, and one of the reasons that is because our work with our counterparts in Israel prior to October 7th.
I'll give you credit for that, but I'm going to reclaim my time because I really want to make just a record here. Because regardless, to be clear, Hamas is using crypto in relatively small amounts compared to what's been widely reported. That's correct.
That's our assessment,
yeah. Does Treasury have a responsibility to correct the record here? And perhaps this is involving some of the classified information you're talking about. Because I understand that, like today, with FinCEN, Treasury has acknowledged that digital assets are not the preferred financial product for terrorists, but Treasury has the data to paint the correct narrative of crypto and how it's used, and instead we have senators who are legislating on these false figures and major CEOs using these figures to inform their perspectives on digital assets. Sure, we can go to chain analysis and use their third-party reporting, but Treasury already has the data. So doesn't Treasury have a responsibility to correct the record here?
And we've put out a number of reports on illicit finance risk in the context of virtual assets, and I think we have clearly stated while there is not a significant uptake that we perceive currently, that it is an area of opportunity that we know terrorist groups could use, and we have seen some, not Hamas necessarily, but other terrorist organizations, particularly focused on the ability to use crypto to move their finance.
I appreciate that, but I'm talking about the misinformation that the Wall Street Journal has suggested, and that certain senators are doing, trying to base legislation on that would literally destroy innovation in this country. And I take it that you don't have a position then as to whether Treasury has an obligation to correct this record with the data that they have. It seems to me that they would.
And just how imminent this threat could be. Now, House Speaker Mike Johnson sought to reassure the public.
I want to assure the American people there is no need for public alarm. We are going to work together to address this matter, as we do all sensitive matters that are classified. And beyond that, I'm not at liberty to disclose classified information and really can't say much more.
Space-related capability of the Russian military. And that's all we know tonight, Ryan. Back over to you.
Yeah, the New York Times and some others are reporting on this potential, to your point, space-based, potentially nuclear satellite. But again, we don't know.
Congressman Mike Turner issued a statement saying that President Biden should declassify intelligence related to a, quote, serious national security threat. What can you say about the threat and what the administration plans to do?
So first, I reached out earlier this week to the Gang of Eight to offer myself up for a personal briefing to the Gang of Eight. And in fact, we scheduled a briefing for the 4 House members of the Gang of Eight tomorrow. I am a bit surprised that Congressman Turner came out publicly today in advance of a meeting on the books for me to go sit with him alongside our intelligence and defense professionals tomorrow. That's his choice to do that. All I can tell you is that I'm focused on going to see him, sit with him, as well as the other House members of the Gang of Eight tomorrow. And I'm not in a position to say anything further from this podium at this time.
Going to a different economy, and we're going to be learning more about that as we go. But clearly, we're learning that things can be done from remote locations. We're learning that technology can replace people even more than we thought.
We're not going back to the same economy. We're recovering, but to a different economy, and it'll be one that is more leveraged to technology. And I worry that that is going to make it even more difficult than it was for many workers.
In Silicon Valley, and my friends who work in technology know that what we did to the manufacturing workers, we are now going to do to the retail workers, the call center workers, the fast food workers, the truck drivers, and then even bookkeepers, accountants, insurance agents, lawyers, and on through the economy. So what happened to the manufacturing workers is a very clear sign.
And so we'll import Chinese-based CBDC technology. So it's going to be CBDC in a box provided to you by the People's Bank of China.
But every stock, every bond, every currency, every commodity, every piece of art, every private business, every piece of real estate will eventually be a token on a blockchain, an entry on a ledger, permanent and immutable. We will have truth instead of trust, and we will save over $7 trillion a year. 6 to 8% of global GDP is wasted by the friction of the trust industry that's necessary when you have dual entry accounting. With triple entry accounting, which is what a blockchain is, we get rid of all of that friction. It's a beautiful future.
Like what you see in China and their social credit scoring systems, right? If we get identity wrong, it could be a tool to enslave humanity. And if we get it right, it could be a tool to liberate humanity. And as an American, I'm obviously rooting for the one that's on the side of freedom.
Bitcoin is an international asset. And also, I do believe the role of crypto is, it's digitizing gold.
I actually believe this technology is going to be very important. Look at it. We have been part of a huge revolution in investing through ETFs. We believe that ETFs will be changing the whole way we invest. Many people still use it as a means, people are investing it for indexing. No, the majority of people who are putting money in in ETFs are active investors that are buying exposure. The entire bond market is being transformed as we talk right now. I believe the next generation for markets, the next generation for securities will be tokenization of securities. And if we could have that distributed ledger that we know every beneficial owner, every beneficial seller, we all have our code of who's buying, who's selling, instantaneous settlement. And think about it, it changes the whole ecosystem.
Chinese bank ICBC has been hit by a ransomware attack, and the U.S. Treasury market, as a result of that, has been disrupted. This, according to the Financial Times. We're getting it more right now with Bloomberg's Shonali Bassick. Shonali, what do we know?
Listen, we have the Financial Times now reporting that ICBC, one of China's largest banks here, was hit with a ransomware attack. And remember, they're a very significant intermediary in the Treasury market. The SIFMA has told its members that this has been part of the reason here that the system is kind of clogged up, if you will, during that auction that we saw a little bit before. The attack had prevented ICBC, according to the Financial Times, from settling Treasury trades on behalf of other market participants. A large executive at a major bank also telling the paper that such a large party on the fixed income clearing corp creates major concerns, potentially impacting the liquidity of Treasury markets.
Now, it was not just a poor auction. It was absolutely lousy, and when the dealers have to step in to save a Treasury auction, that's a rare occurrence. And
Cryptoteacher and the New World Order book, plus the 3 Kids books, It's Time to Re-Educate. Also, new to cryptos, Coinbase, Bitrue, Binance. Do not forget book links and crypto links are in the description. The stock channel, guys. Don't forget to go like, subscribe, spread everywhere. You have your Kobo, your chip stocks, your banking, your gaming. While everybody's sitting at home, get home stocks, the Seaver, the biotech stocks. And while everybody's at home wishing, they were still getting that free money. What are they doing? Drinking and smoking weed. Don't forget about those stocks, and you have a wonderful day. The most powerful person in the world is the storyteller. The storyteller sets the vision, values, and agenda of an entire generation to come. Steve Jobs. And guys, I truly believe in this. When you look at the New World Order, they're the storytellers. And that's the reason why I wrote my New World Order book. But guys, now it's time to change the current generation. And I wrote 3 kids books. You know, I love the Trinity because I understand the power that's in it. So I have 3 books. We have an opportunity to change the generation, to educate, not just me, but I want to show you that I take action on a daily basis. And I want you to take action on a daily basis. Whether it's your job, whether it's in your community, we have an opportunity right now to educate the masses. I posted this on my Twitter account. Please share, but this is a short clip of the 3 books. There's going to be a clothing line and action figures. Please get these books for your kids, nephews, cousins, friends, so therefore we can start the re-education now. Because as we see, the 4th Industrial Revolution foundation is definitely here. Robots, algorithms, drones, taking humanity out the picture. We have to re-educate. But let's get into the video.
Part 1. King Joshua and Grandma Tam save the village. Part 2. King Joshua and Grandma Tam save New York from COVID Stories 3. Part 3. King Joshua and Grandma Tam goes to China.
It's mandatory to get part 1, part 2, and part 3 of this series. It's time to re-educate Generation Z.